Billy,
Hey, Martin.
how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yourself?
We talk all the time, but seldom do we have such celebration, such
Yeah.
celebratory reason to talk. We did the unexpected. We integrated XDC. Uphold is the first ever proper, centralized, transparent, accredited, based OG platform in the world to have full integration with XDC. Maybe this is the point to actually thank you and your entire team and also the XDC community at large, um, because we have made so much progress with the help of the community, your excellent community managers. So when we let the word out a few days ago, it spread like wildfire. And my marketing department came back and said, "How do you do that?" I said, "I didn't do anything. I just rely on the kindness of XDC affiliated strangers." So, well, we are integrated. We've got one more thing to do, and that's staking, and everyone's working on that. So, I don't want to get too much into the fact that it's not easy. Taking a blockchain, integrating it, making sure that all the transactions are run properly, that you don't drop them, lose them somewhere in a black hole, that they're accountable, that everybody gets the right amount of tokens when they buy something. You have transaction monitoring. So many components have to fall into place. And shout out to our tech team in Braga for making this happen. It's one of 15 chains that we're integrating in the next few months, but it is by far the most important because for some reason, would you believe XCC has been in the top 5 trading assets on Uphold ever since we listed it back in May.
Mm.
And I didn't expect that kind of success. I thought, okay, here's something for trade finance. It's not a furry dog, it's about trade finance. Nobody's going to buy it. And look at this. I mean, every single week I get the notifications. Oh, XCC was again number 2, number 1, number 3 on the assets traded. What has happened since we last talked? Since we last talked, it was in July. We talked about the trader token. Let's recap a bit, Billy, if you may, the last few months before we take a look at the future of XDC from where we are now.
Yeah, no, great. Well, thanks for having me. Just, yeah, we do talk a lot. So it's actually good to kind of get on this together. And a lot has really transpired in the months since, we've been last on here. So, but yeah, I would say, one thing in general is that, our community is a very strong community. There are a lot of contributors across the globe who are all coming on and really, whether it's on social, which I think is one of the things you see a lot of. We have a very, very social community, and they really like to any kind of updates, news, or things that are happening on network. They really like to, bring it out in social and talk about it. And so, really, I want to thank the community personally. I mean, I came from the community. Our team came from the community. And it's our home. So I think that shout out to the Zen fam on that and all the work that they're doing. And I think that kind of leads.
Shout out to the people on the chat.
Yeah.
Yes, moving to tier 3 means you can now withdraw and deposit XTC directly in the Uphold wallet. That's what we call tier 3. That is full integration of the blockchain. And that's not an easy thing. It takes time. So stop pestering me. The next token.
That is even being a fork of GoETH and the similarities that we have. There is still a lot of integration that takes time, and this is something that we experience in a lot of places. So we got a lot of different integrations that we've been working on in all different areas, and you got to do it right from the beginning, and so these things take time. So patience is definitely what's needed in this space, and I think people, understand that. But it's what can you do today to advance what you need to have done for tomorrow, and so that's really kind of how we look at things. But I do think that there is a tremendous amount of things that are happening, as far as really, what we're doing as part of the foundation, I think, people in the community are starting to see that, we are really about supporting, projects coming on and developing on the network, through the building of and support of the network, and tools that make it easier for projects to build. We work at Connect.
Billy, let's be a bit interactive, Billy. I'm
Yeah.
gonna put a question to you from his handle is Better Understanding, so he's off to a good start.
Oh, yeah.
Twitter handles, YouTube handles, and Better Understanding wants to know. I'm still trying to figure out what XDC exactly is. But
Yeah.
I get it.
I see that.
Can you give us the elevator pitch of XDC? Right?
Sure. Well, the XDC network is really an enterprise-focused network on trade finance and an EVM-compatible smart contracts platform. So the ability for us to have really any type of DApp built on top of the network, just like you see on Ethereum or other EVM-compatible networks, is really there and capable. But we've had from the beginning a real focus on what we're really trying to do to close the gap in trade financing for SMEs across the globe. And I think that's been a big part of what you're seeing really come together right now, with a lot of the services essentially that are being built on top of the network by a lot of independent projects. Impel, as an example, is one of them, with the ISO messaging. We have the connection with Corda. We have the Trada token, or trade finance with Trade Tech, where they're looking to bring regulated security tokens to the marketplace. There's Securrency that's coming to the network. Fluent.
You bought them, right? You took a stake. Oh, you bought them.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of what goes on with a lot of these platforms is really kind of working through what's happening in the world of trade finance, and how we can bridge what's happening in traditional finance with what can be done on chain. So, when you are looking at, what's happening in the world of finance, that's what, Trade Tech is really focused on, in terms of, how they can bring their platform, to SMEs. And with trade finance, you have one of the most or the most inflation resistant asset in the world.
Yeah.
So to be able to something where you can back the financing on that, it's a really tremendous opportunity.
It's almost as good as film finance, right? Or casinos and brothels are also very good for bad inflationary environments. When he is the more depressed people are, the more booze that flows. Yeah. You bought Securrency. Tell me about that more, because I have a boss on my Uphold board who just ends every conversation about a small company we find. Oh, why don't we just buy them? How much are they? How many people? Why don't we just buy them? Everyone's building. It is incredible. I was at DAS London with Christopher, my new head of sales, and everyone's building. And then one CEO came, I mentioned this to a CEO of L Banks, and he said to me, of course, everyone's building now. Once markets are good again, you're too busy answering customer complaints hotlines. So everyone is building, and you bought Securrency. What exactly are they doing?
Yeah, well, Securrency is a independent company that's launching a platform on our network for tokenization of assets, backed by Wisdom Tree and State Street. And so, really, similar to what's happening with Trade Tech, in their own way, they're looking at bringing, instruments that can be financed and tokenized, on the network. And so they're making huge strides in doing this. They have a stablecoin which they're launching as well. And again, like Trade Tech, a lot of this is really for outside of the U.S., where the regulatory frameworks are really kind of set up for them to operate. And so we're really excited. They have some projects like Fathom, which is coming online as well, and that's going to be really a very easy and simple process for.
Are they the ones bringing out the stablecoin?
Say that again.
Are they the ones bringing out the stablecoin?
They are bringing a stable coin out as well as there are others on the platform, that are doing that. Like
Is there how many XDC stablecoins are there already?
So these are right now in the process ultimately of coming live. So we, other than kind of synthetic or some wrapped versions of a USDT or a USDC. These will be really the first major ones to really launch on the network that are essentially backed by real assets, real world assets. So
Yeah.
obviously there's I think the days of algorithmic stablecoins have passed, and so you really have to look at what the future is in bringing these assets to.
We need to put the algorithmic contract in every coin.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. The stablecoin part, do you think that this will play an important part in trade finance? Are stablecoin really good? Are they not just a grab by governments to grab back power? Are they good for something?
Well, I mean, I think stablecoins really are about on ramping, and when you look at a lot of traditional players that are coming on to a network, they really want to operate through stablecoins, on ramping and off ramping for one, and there's, although transactions can be backed still by the liquidity of the token on the network. Ultimately, the stable coins offer the best environment for trade finance or other institutions to really have the stability that they're looking for, because they're extremely risk averse in everything that they do, and nobody wants to get into something that is just a major unknown. They need to have stability in what they're doing. So we do get a lot of I guess institutions that we speak to. The real question always is, what can we what is there as far as stable coins in order to on ramp with, and so that's a big deal for them.
Well, you needn't worry about your on and off ramps anymore. You're now firmly on Uphold.
Yeah.
And we do ramps like no one else. It's turning out quite an advantage for us to having to take this route and not being an exchange, and instead drawing our liquidity from everywhere else, which gives you much better price execution, and this is how we can support an ecosystem like XDC. We have Trada. Trada is there to solve the gate financing gap. I have at least 6 instances of merchant banks in the United Kingdom, from Standard Chartered, from Lloyd's, a couple of smaller merchant banks experimenting with instruments on the blockchain, be that documents like a letter of credit, like a bill of lading, but also financial obligations. UK law now says very clearly that what lives on a blockchain also lives in the eyes of the law, which is probably the biggest step that came out of Her Majesty's famous last big speech before she passed. It was back in June, and look at where the world is now. So about 6 months ago in my career, institutional interest was in the future, right? And now over summer, you go to one conference after another, and institutional interest is right there in your face. Not just we might, but Standard Chartered setting, we have our own trading solution now. It's called Zodia, and we launched it 3 weeks ago, and here it is, completely and ready. Everyone's complaining they can't find talent and coders, but everyone is building, so it can't be that bad in the world of coding jobs.
Yeah.
Are you having trouble finding people?
Yeah. I mean, I think that there has been a shift in where we were from, say, a year and a half ago, where I think it was really bad and people were having a very difficult time kind of ramping up that skill set. I think there's been a lot of access to people to kind of move into blockchain and learn blockchain. So, I think that while, it's still something where the most talented people are going to be really hard to get, there are a lot more ways in which you're able to find talent and bring it together. And so, for us, the way in which we've really worked, and this is kind of like from the foundry, or what you'll see from XDC community, from some of the community members that are, really kind of, out of the foundation, is a process that's being put together for, what we call an XIP process. And it's bounty-driven opportunities for people to come on and see what we're looking to or needing to have built as far as either a protocol upgrade or some other support. And we're getting a lot of positive feedback, in terms of people coming on and starting to really build these bounties. It's a ramping up process, but we're seeing a lot of really great opportunities there. And from the building perspective, and I've been the conferences, where I've been to over the last month and a half, like a lot of like what you're doing. I was in Mainnet in New York, and everything really is about building. And so we've really taken the opportunity with what's been going on in the marketplace to kind of reorganize how we want to focus on the protocol and bring the team together in a way that allows us to actually complete the things that we've been doing, but also look at, with the shift in the market conditions, are there things that we might want to do differently and apply resources to it. And so I think it's actually been a really exciting time. The team itself, especially over at XinFin, has really during the summer put a lot of effort and energy into the development. And I think that's why you're seeing things like Securrency coming out, that actually the development has happened in fairly short order, and a lot of effort has gone into that platform. So it's so the short answer is, I think it's easier now than it had been, but look, there's still especially in crypto, in this market, in blockchain, it takes a long time potentially to get some of these integrations going. And you have a queue, where you're filling what's already in the pipeline, and then you have time to integrate. And so when you're looking at timeframes, you might look at, wanting to accomplish something today, but that it's probably going to be more like Q2 or Q3 next year. And so I think those paths are becoming more clear, though, and a little bit easier to move through.
We've done the same. We've set some of our path ahead in the next few months in stone, because otherwise you go back to the tech team every other week and tell them to do something new, right? And
yeah, exactly. It's always a new idea in crypto, right? So I mean, you got to stick with what your plan is. Make sure you execute on it and then move on.
But we have pretty much the fan base now in Braga, where most of our tech people are. The XDC fan base, they started off firmly based in Ethereum tokens, and then we threw XDC at them and all the rest. So we're pretty much excited now, that we've brightened their little tech lives up with colorful XDC. So what is coming next? I mean, apart from the fact that, yes, in response to all the questions in the chat, yes, there will be staking. No, we will not offer some half-baked solution where you have to stake 100,000 for 6 years. You will be able to stake incrementally, add 100 there, add 200 there, and you can withdraw incrementally, fully flexible. And we're going to get you the best APY that we can find without losing sight of your money. So yes, staking is coming. When it is coming, I have no idea, and I will not even ask. Because whatever it is, there will be an obstacle to it. We've just found another one. Like people don't notice, we had the XDC listed, ready to go. And then it was a last minute, 2 a.m, last ditch event where we realized we don't have the exact transaction monitoring that we want. And we have to stop this. So it was like 2 a.m for half of the people. And within 2 hours, and your help, we solved that and we're able to go live. So what's next for XDC? What's on the horizon? What are we looking forward to?
Well, I definitely think that, from where we started, over a year ago with Trade Tech and, putting together the tokenization of assets, I think really what you're going to be looking at is, how there's going to be more of a proliferation of, these types of platforms, and that are coming on chain, that you're going to have the ability to, really move from what has taken a period of time to kind of bring the technology together to now really start to move that technology into, more production level transactions. And I think that's what you're always working towards. It's hard to always tell how that or what that time frame is as to when that production starts happening. But I think you see that there's more value being locked on the network by the day, and there's a lot of ground to make up there, I think, in terms of opportunity. So I think you're going to see a lot of that happening as we move forward. I think obviously we're as a proof of stake, we're master node, delegated proof of stake. The master nodes have really largely been, the staking opportunities, and that's something that has made it probably challenging for a lot of people, given the requirements of that. So I think, staking programs people are bringing online are also an opportunity, I think, for, people to take part in the ecosystem in a way that they haven't been. So, I think that probably from a community level, I think, there's a lot of people that have been asking for things like that. And there are now, participants on the network, like yourself, who are like really, bringing this to fruition. So I think, those are probably the two areas where I see the most movement coming up as we move forward,
What do you see this look like in a few years' time as a small and medium enterprise? If I were to open a trading company because I miss my Asian tea, and I open an office in Singapore and here, how does my tea run on XDC?
Yeah, that's a good question. I wish I had a crystal ball to say exactly how that would look. But I think, if you kind of take clues from what's been happening and what's being created, I think, we have the ability, especially with what Trade Tech has done, when you're talking about taking, a grouping of invoices from SMEs and you're putting it together into an NFT, and you're fractionalizing the ability to, finance and own, these particular assets. And so I think that you're going to be able to kind of give small businesses, the opportunity to present what they're doing, into an ecosystem that's like far frictionless than it is today, considerably faster in the ability to be able to make the transactions happen. And also, that the time in which it takes is going to allow them to be more efficient in their business, because, you're going from, you don't have to worry about trying to have a bank in your country, find a bank in another country and try to finance invoices or any other instrument. You're really going to form that you can just go to, you can enter in whatever information you have, you can upload whatever documents that you have, everything will be fully digitized. And the ability for somebody to come and say, here, we have these financiers available for you, I think will be, a breath of fresh air for small businesses, especially if you're operating in a part of the world where banking is not really available to you. And even here in the US, there are lots of communities where banking is not really available to small businesses, in areas where
it's not a third world problem. You have this in developed countries equally, because banks simply lose interest in the smaller middleman.
Yep.
There's too much risk associated, especially when the trade is far off countries. I've witnessed this firsthand only a week ago. So we are making, no wonder we are making more progress in countries where these systems are not complete. Because there's room for improvement there. But how long do you think it will change? It will take to change in the States. The United Kingdom and with it Europe in sync step have launched new rounds of regulation that will definitely set the tone for trade, finance, and digital asset regulation in general. What do you think is needed in the States? It's kind of an awkward situation. We are talking about the securitization of everything, and at the same time, we have Gary Gensler losing his marbles every time somebody says the word security. Right? So,
well, I definitely think it's a real challenge. It's something that we look at every day, as far as just in terms of what we're doing. As a foundation, we're looking at it as how do we get better clarity and understanding of what would be interpreted as being something that is a way in which we can operate. And we really work hard to really try to understand that and operate with I guess maybe the murkiness of what is happening here in the US. And I think first and foremost, you always try to do the right thing by what you're doing, and that's very important to us in terms of we're here to work with the law, and so therefore interpreting it, spending time looking into it, and making decisions based on that, and doing the right thing, I think are really important. That being said, there's a lot of legislation that's now really kind of being entered into Congress, and I think we're in a tricky situation in terms of obviously we have a fairly polarized political environment, and with that, elections coming up, and I don't think anything, from everything I hear, I don't think anything's really happening until after the elections, which now are only weeks away. But I think that
when is the next Congress after that? Sorry for me being stupid about American
politics.
politics.
Sorry. Well, I mean, elections are coming up in early November, and then really starting 2023. You have the really everyone in place to move forward. So I think that the really that's where things would happen is is 2023. You have potential committee members changing, and you don't really know what that future is going to be. So I think there's a lot of people in the space who are just having a little bit of a wait and see attitude towards where we're going to go, and hopeful that there's clarity with some of these laws that are being put forward. Some regarding stablecoins, which I think people feel might be one of the first areas to be tackled, but clarity would certainly help a lot. I think for the most part, what happens in this industry is people are really trying to do the right thing, and we're in most cases just trying to make things better. So hopefully it's an environment that moves forward where that's something that everybody can have clarity on and do, and it's becomes anybody's guess. I'm far from the right person to say, well, I think this is going to happen by this time or that time. But I do believe you can look at a time frame and think that within the next 12 months or to 30 whatever months, you're going to have a lot more clarity on this. We need to, and the other side of it is seeing clarity happening in other places of the world does help a lot. So there's.
I have to say, as somebody utterly liberal and never having fully understood, never having even tried to understand the British people, where I spent a lot of my time, I now see the reason for breakfast for breakfast. Sorry, Brexit for the first time. There's always a reason for breakfast, right?
Yeah.
Brexit has now given the UK an exceptional advantage in just saying, yes, we are good with it. This is what we're going to do, and this is our legislation. And especially in trade and banking, whatever rules the London, the city, is the law across the empire. in finance sooner or later. So you will see exactly the same laws in Singapore, in Malaysia, in Canada, Australia. And then you have basically four-fifths of world trade covered, because believe it or not, in international trade, the States is actually not that big. If you take away domestic trade, right, it's not that big of a player. So then we have a de facto standard for trade finance instituted by Britain while it was otherwise occupied with prime ministers coming and going. And you have the European Union during a time of extreme stress. Look at the energy crisis, the cost of living crisis, the war. And yet we have moved very quickly from June to now with regulation.
Yeah.
And saying this is what it looks like. This is what an NFT like. This is property. What is the meaning of fractionalization? How does an asset change just because it's now digital, right? And the fact that all this happened so swiftly and so well informed, even the leaked document this week about the act whose abbreviation must not be remembered ever, the DCCCPA. Oh God, who comes up with these abbreviations?
Yeah.
That leaked act has now a language much more favorable to DeFi solutions, and that's exactly what companies are clamoring for. Having been to a number of conferences, I get the impression that many enterprises are now realizing, okay, this is what blockchain does, but the investment in it, is it worth it for us? Or do we go with a third-party software provider who can give us the same connectivity? So we are now building completely new business models out of blockchain.
Yeah.
And I expect trade and real estate to be, because of the legal situation, the first big sectors to take that on.
Yeah, I mean, I think that, look, it's right where the money flows is where you're going to see the most change. And I think that with blockchain, one of the greatest value propositions that you have available is how you can move money more effortlessly, as it's frictionless, or, at low cost and fast. It's just, immediate. So I think that it makes sense that that's the place where a lot of this is happening, this change. But, I was having this conversation with somebody earlier today. I really think that, when you look at what's going on across the globe, and you have a lot of different people coming out with, there's a bubble here, or something's going to crash there. We're in for a recession. There's geopolitical pressures or things that are going on. Obviously, the war is a terrible thing that's really consuming the globe. And, I think that when you actually consider all of these things, the reality is, when it comes to blockchain and disruption and a lot of services, these types of events end up accelerating the development in these areas, because you need solutions. When you have inflation happening and costs are going up, you need to find ways in which to reduce the costs in order to do business. And you can talk to the everyday person. I had lunch with somebody who owns a business, that's in septic and plumbing, and you talk about what they're going through in terms of supply chain and costs and everything. And this is every business. There isn't any business that's not being impacted by it. So I feel like the real opportunity that's with blockchain right now in front of it is, how do we bring real, I guess you could say, killer applications, right? Killer dApps that are going to make a difference for these businesses, like really to change or shift the model that they're in, and find ways to, really kind of recover some of the erosion that they've had in terms of the pricing. I mean, in any business, that really cash is king, as they say. And
are we moving to a world in which a blockchain project is basically an operating system for our industry? And if so, will XDC be the operating system of international trade?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, I think that that's actually ultimately the way a lot of people view it. I view it that way when you look at a lot of the networks that are out there. I don't know how ultimately this all pairs out in 5 years, but when you start to really look at how you focus on certain niches and you're in the ability, you have the ability to really build within that niche and add value, then I think as a network, it really is a platform. And we become, it's like we're not a private entity. We're as a foundation, as an example, we're one of a number of people who are operating on this network and helping to develop it, and we have a role in which we participate in. And we look at how we can continue to work with others, but everyone is their own entity. And people are beginning to realize that there's real value in kind of moving into this Web3 world from where things are. And some of it has to do with privacy or the ability to own your information and all of that. But I think that there's just an evolution about what is in front of us right now from a technological standpoint, that it's maybe hard to picture the concrete way in which it's going to shape itself. But the opportunity is really there, and it's how we come together. And this is also what is important around legislation, I think, here is, how does the US participate in the kind of this Web3 evolution, and because they were, front and center with Web 1 and 2. And, this is really definitely the future of what happens. So you talk networks or Web3, you are talking about the future platforms of the world.
I'm absolutely excited to be in exactly this space, because we're not talking trade finance and big money for big corporations. We're talking about making things possible for people who didn't have access to financing. We're doing the same with payment system. We're doing the same with the film industry. I'd like to leave, if you allow, for 3 minutes for the great unwashed, if they have any questions out there. If the question is about anything else but XDC, I will ignore you. If the question is exceptionally stupid, I will read it out loud and your handle. If the question is intelligent, I will turn it into an intelligent question. I'm talking to you, Selvin Garcia, all of you, whoever wants to put in that message here. MLETR.
Yeah.
Can we explain that in one sentence? Can you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I always look at it as really pretty simple. Is that you're looking for a global standard of something that you're doing, right? And I think
I always remember it by thinking my letter. It's my letter of credit. My letter. That's
a lot of people talk M letter,
M letter.
Yeah.
That's my letter.
I mean, I think in a general sense, I would kind of look at it from this perspective, and it's not specific to anyone. I don't think. I mean, there's a lot of efforts that are happening internationally in different areas, and there are some areas you can go in and you can create a business that jurisdictionally allows you to do things, like create security tokens, like what Trade Tech has done, and yet you can't do that, or it's not available to people all over the globe. So I think when you look at things like M letter, just in general, anything that can bring a common regulatory framework to what we're doing is obviously, it's a steep climb, but it's happening. And I think it's a great thing, for what we're doing. How that shapes is anybody's guess. A lot of progress is being made, a lot of good people working on it. But I couldn't tell you what, with the crystal ball, how all of it works out. But I'm excited with the possibility of having this in place, and it's putting it together in a way, like one country at a time.
I mean, the incentive by the UK Parliament in Westminster this week to say, okay, this is the Trade Documents Act, and we're doing this to save paper, right?
Yeah.
It's a very, very noble intent. We're in blockchain to save the trees. Right?
Yeah.
Let's stay with that. Let's not overburden our lawmakers in having to explain why we are doing this on a super fast blockchain of a specific name. Let's just stick with we're going to save some trees narrative.
Well, we definitely need save trees, and we got to plant a lot more. So
who would be an ideal core user of the Corda blockchain? and is Wells Fargo a partner of Corda? Well, the thing is, we're not talking about Corda here, and probably Billy is not talking about Corda either. I am not a criminal. Are your holdings at Uphold off limits to the USARS? Okay, people who write to me with a message, I'm not a criminal, I'm highly suspicious. My spam filter goes off when a message contains the word, I'm not a criminal. Yes, XDC is going to be great. Mostly here, some messages of self-congratulations, and I think we hit a nerve here with integrating XDC. Now, it's 40 minutes. Billy, we talk so much, we need to talk again when we got staking. What APY do you want for your staking on Uphold?
Well, I don't know. I think that's for you to decide.
Do you want some extra inflation protection with that?
Yeah, well, I think anything anybody does these days, they want inflation protection. Right?
I'm actually following some really, really good stable coin projects that are inflation proof. It's amazing how we went from we can't have a stable coin because we have negative interest rates to, oh my God, how high is the Fed going to go? And all this in 6 months, right?
Yeah, it's changed a lot. Things, I mean, just the general sense of, I mean, if you look at mortgage rates as an example, they've moved so much higher. Of course, I think a lot of people haven't seen rates like this in the past, but if you were buying a house, 25 years ago or 20 years ago, this is where you were entering. So it's a very, it's interesting how things become full cycle. But as far as I think this industry goes, and your comment right there is a perfect example of, the disruption in any industry happens because of a need. And when things really shift and the emphasis and focus is on interest rates and inflation, you're going to be seeing people coming out and finding ways to combat that. And I think that's what you're seeing right now.
They will. And so will we. We will keep building.
Yep.
I give you a ping. I ping you when the staking is ready, whenever it is. Maybe let's do a little, one more celebration. Other than that, all the best to you, Billy, to your team. Thank you for all the support during this integration. It's been great.
Yeah. Anything we could do. You guys have been great. It's a lot of, it's funny to think how the frequency, that we're kind of moving at and communicating at over the last 6 or 8 months.
Yeah. Never had a better team to work with. And it shows, it shows. We went from what the hell is an XDC to how can we not be in the top 5 trading assets every week, because leave some room for other people, Martin. No, everyone's very happy with XDC. I am myself, I'm really surprised by how well we did with XDC, because we started with a synthetic listing of a token that's not exactly, it's not sexy, it's not furry, it doesn't promise you the moon, and yet it's been the success of the year on Uphold. So really, thanks so much. Let's talk again soon. Martin. You have a great rest of the week.
Thanks. You too. Thank you.
Ciao. Bye.
Bye.